What's going on, everybody? So there is some really funky news going around the Honkai Star Rail community right now. Allegedly, the Herta and Aglaea will be rerunning in version 3.3 of Honkai Star Rail, even though they just came out back in version 3.0. So, going on the assumption that this rumor is true, which it might not be, just keep that in mind. It is very likely to be true, of course, since multiple reliable leakers are saying that this is the case. Just take this with a grain of salt, okay? We will be going on the assumption moving forward in this video that this is true. Regardless, let's talk about if the Herta and Aglaea are going to be worth going for their reruns in version 3.3. So first things first, before that, we have to consider the other characters coming in version 3.3, the brand new 5 stars Hyacinth and Cypher. Cypher is going to be a Nihility, potentially a sub DPS that might work really well with Acheron. She might kind of be like a cool little fun main DPS, although I don't see her being main DPS worthy in terms of meta. Like, I don't think she'll be tier 0 in that aspect. And there's also Hyacinth, who seems like she might be one of the best, potentially one of the best sustains in the game, but she is a limited unit. So for me, overall, with this information, I personally will be skipping version 3.3, but whether or not a limited sustain is worth going over the Herta, Aglaea, and Cypher is ultimately up to wherever your account is at. I've already talked about if I would recommend Hyacinth and Cypher in other videos. With that being said though, the Herta and Aglaea are DPSs, so they do have a higher priority over any kind of other unit, because DPSs generally, I'm not going to say they get power crept often, because they don't, but you want to have multiple DPSs on your account that can do, different things in terms of functionality, like super break, AoE damage dealing, all that kind of stuff. Maybe a single target damage dealer like Base Shao will be nice. Not right now though, because of the current AoE meta, but now I'm just starting to yap. With that being said though, finally I will address these two. First things first, let's talk Aglaea. I off rip will not recommend Aglaea to anybody. I didn't recommend her back in version 3.0, and I don't recommend her right now. Aglaea she doesn't do AoE damage, so as soon as we shift away from the AoE meta, she might do a little bit better, but right now, Aglaea is on the cusp of tier 0.5. She is still a great DPS, don't get me wrong, but she right now is just not at the very top of the meta. She wasn't this top tier DPS when she came out. She's kind of like Boot Hill when he first came out. She's kind of like Yin Li when she first came out. A great DPS, but just not entirely meta. You can 36 star with Aglaea, don't get me wrong. You may be able to 0 cycle with her as well if you have like maybe E0 S1, E1 S1, some crazy supports, but you will fare better with Caceres, the Herta, potentially Phynon, right? A meta DPS, a top level DPS. Aglaea is just not one of those. So I would not recommend Aglaea right now with the information that we currently have, but keep in mind that since these units are already getting reruns, my guess is there will be a big shift in meta. We might shift away from AoE, because right now Caceres and the Herta are heavily being shielded, which is making Aglaea further down in the meta than she should be. Her damage multipliers are great, but she is, at the bottom of tier 0, maybe tier 0.5. I personally would consider a tier 0.5 DPS overall compared to E0 S0 the Herta, because of how much better I think the Herta really is, especially right now, once again with the AoE meta. With that being said though, I would not say that the Herta's rerun is a must-pull banner, despite me shilling her constantly over these past couple months. And the reason why is because of how cautious you have to be with something like this. A lot of the time, DPS reruns might be bait. For example, Firefly got reran right before the meta shifted heavily towards AoE, making Firefly feel like she's been power crept even though she hasn't actually been. And then there's also, of course, Fei Xiao, who got a rerun in version 3.0. The beginning of the AoE meta shilling, the Herta shilling done by Hoyoverse for the meta. Fei Xiao right now is doing really bad. She's tier 1, tier 1.5 in MOC right now, because of the fact that we're in an AoE meta right now. So right now Fei Xiao is not doing so good because she's single target, AoE meta, of course, yada yada. But the fact that the Herta is already getting a rerun means potentially the meta might shift. I don't know what it might shift towards. Maybe summons, maybe single target, maybe Finon will be Hunt since allegedly he's coming in version 3.4. Overall, my point is I would be cautious about these DPS reruns. The Herta, in my opinion, throughout every single E0 S0 DPS, I would still say is the best DPS right now. But this could potentially be bait. Once we get information on the enemies and the environment and the point of the meta in the end game, by this point, I will then make a more finalized evaluation as to if this is actually worth it. But as of version 3.2, you know, having this bit of insight, it's not really enough information as it is right now to make, you know, like a finalized decision. So that's about it for this video. I would consider that you consider to go for the Herta on her rerun because of how good she is, and worst case scenario, she will still be a god tier unit in Pure Fiction. She is easily the best unit to use in Pure Fiction right now, and I think it's going to stay like that for a while. She is the goddess of Pure Fiction because of her damage multipliers, her AoE damage, because she is erudition after all. So that is the worst case scenario, but just keep in mind everything that I said. The Herta is meta right now. I still consider her the best DPS in the game. Castris is better with E0 S1, but with Castris, you need her light cone, so I personally would not consider her to be the best DPS. But this can all change, right? Once again, the Herta in single target scenarios will absolutely not do better than Fei Xiao. With both DPSs at E0 S0, with single target scenarios, Fei Xiao will do much better. So just remember all of this, take everything that I just said into consideration. The Herta is insane, but this could potentially be bait. But that's about it for this video. I'll see y'all. Goodbye.